All right. Welcome one, welcome all. Greetings and salutations to all you lovely golf fans out there. This is Nice Grass, Nice People. I am Kyle Serlo, joined by the illustrious Stephen Berger, calling it all the way from the deep. Oh, you're not the deep South. What is that? The mid South? How do you characterize Tennessee?
I
Is
like
it just the
that.
South? Is it just
Yeah,
blanket generic South?
yeah. People in Kentucky actually think they're in the South, and if you tell them that they're not, and you say they're kind of Midwest, they might bring their pitchforks after you. But no, we're in the
Them's
South.
fighting words.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it, but I kind of like Kentucky. You got a lot of great things there. But got to say
Very
right
green.
at the top,
Please.
I took a week off from the pod. And I was listener number one, biggest fan last week. What a great episode. For all the fans out there, I gave some feedback to Kyle because one will. And I was like, I saw the runtime on that bad boy and was like, whoa, that's too long. And then I listened to it and I wished it was a little longer because it was a quality episode.
Dan is an outstanding guest who's got a ton of golf insight. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, highly encourage you to go back and do it. Had a lot of fun last week, but I got to tell you, man, I missed you. I missed you. Now we're talking. We're talking here on the show after a week hiatus, and it feels like it's been too long. So I don't know what that says about your and I's codependency on one another. But hey, I'm just putting it all out there. I want the listeners to have I want them to be involved. I want them to know what we're going through as a podcasting couple. And so, here's a little peek inside. So, other than missing out on last week, Beige, how are we? How are we feeling? Golf game is good. Were you offended at all by the lab golf talk that was going on last week's podcast? Did you feel triggered? Did you feel more informed?
Dude, I've got things to report on the lab golf thing. Actually, where I left you a couple weeks ago was that I was going into a golf putting lesson.
Yes.
Do you remember I did do this?
Yes, I do remember this. This is partially the reason that I wanted to bring it up. I need updates.
Okay, well, let me do this really quickly. The lab putter is awesome. Okay, I've had the lab for a while, but I actually didn't know the power that it wielded. I took a lesson from a guy named Scott Porter. He's known the lab founders for years, had one of the original models, actually told me he was bummed because he sold the thing and now it could be worth whatever thousands. But regardless, I was very excited because I had two hot rounds that weekend. One was going out to kind of try out all the things I'd learned on my lesson on Friday. And then Sunday, I was playing in my first tournament of the year in the Amateur Players Tour. Well, I'm out here. First things first, on the first hole on Saturday, I missed a 2.5-foot putt. So there's that to report. And then we we were approaching the 6th tee, and I got a little notification from the tournament that said, hey, range balls are going to be found at this place. And I was like, why is that? And I looked at my calendar and realized that the tournament was actually on Saturday, not on Sunday. So I missed the tournament. What a bonehead, dude. What a bonehead. Anyway. I'm digressing from the point. Other than the fact that I'm a bonehead.
That's like the thing you do when you got like 4 kids at home. It's like you're.
It's just one of those things that you're like, I know for a fact that this thing is on this day, and I don't have anything to base that on. I've just known that for like 10, 15 days.
I know it so deeply that I don't have to verify on the calendar.
I've been there. I was so wrong. So anyway, the following day, I actually called the course and I was like, hey, I signed up to play this. I paid oodles and noodles of dollars to do it. Can I just come out and play on the round? And they're like, you're an idiot, but yes. And I had a really great round. One, by the way, that would not even have been on the podium. I shot a 4/76, and the winner the day before at the tournament was 2 under. So I got smushed even in my own version of the tournament. All
healthy amateur golf competition out there.
Golly, in Division 2, dude. These aren't even like Division 1 players. Anyway, the point is there are some very exciting things that I've learned about the lab putter, one of which was the lab putter is not necessarily built to go straight back and straight forth on a line. It still allows for a little bit of opening and closing. I didn't realize that. Because of that, I was pulling a lot of putts. The second big one was, I don't know about you guys, but when you line up to a putt, do you feel, I'll ask you directly, do you feel like your eyes are directly over the ball? Do you feel like if you held a golf ball where your eye is, whether it's the right or left eye, and you dropped it, that it would hit the ball?
Pretty close. But that's because I make an extra, if you have the great misfortune of playing golf with me and having to put up with me out on the golf course, you'll notice like part of my pre-shot routine when I have the putter is, you kind of see me like shaking like my shoulders a little bit, and then I'd make one extra almost little lunge with like my head to try to really get it directly over the ball. But I'm sure if you put a camera right behind me, it's probably not exactly over, but I definitely feel like I'm over the ball.
You don't even need to do that. All you need is one of these little doohickeys. It's a mirror that the ball goes into. And I lined up with the ball kind of in this little mirror on the ground. And he goes, "Would you say that your eyes are directly over the ball?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Can you see your eyes in the mirror?" I was like, "No, I can't see anything." He's like, "So that's not how a mirror works. Okay. That means that you're not close enough to the ball." And I start leaning in,
Came
and
for
then
a
I
golf
start to
lesson, got a motherfucking physics lecture. God damn.
dude, smack me in the face with truth. So I start leaning over and I start seeing my head, and then I start seeing my eyebrows, and I finally see my eyes. And I was like, bro, I feel like I
You feel like
am
you're falling over.
on the other side of the golf ball right now. Big lesson there, because I had been at Bandon, our caddy, once everything was done. Not my caddy, my competitor's caddy was like, "Yeah, I meant to say, your lab putter, you're real smooth with that. Your toe is up off the ground." And I was like, I did not know that, which it all kind of comes back to the fact that feel versus real, man. I felt that I was over the ball. I was 6 inches away. So I'm still kind of adjusting to this. I guess the last point is,
Your whole
sorry,
world has been turned upside down the last 2 months, Bish. You
I know,
left is right, up is down.
I know,
The
I
fact that
know.
you're really so open in sharing this with us, the podcast,
It hurt. It hurt. I'm just trying to save everybody $150. The last thing of the three, I don't know. I forgot about this. It just came back. When you putt, you take it back, maybe a calculated amount, maybe it's all feel and the putter goes back as far as it does. But where do you finish your stroke after you've hit the ball? Do you think about it? Do you know?
don't think about it.
Okay, not saying that you need to, because listen, folks.
I have. So there's been points. I remember when I was playing high school golf and I went through like a little putting struggle. I do remember my coach at the time was teaching me like a little trick to kind of get over whatever I was dealing with, where he was saying, "Hey, on your follow through your stroke, I want you to really exaggerate your follow through to the point where you almost want to have it come up like you're taking like a half follow through, like with a non putter, like really bring it up. And I want you to cross over the hole with your putter just to make sure it'll kind of keep you on the line. It's not going to do anything, but I just want you to like putt and then bring your putter all the way up so then you can, in your eye line, the head of the putter is hitting the cup." Whether that made any difference, I don't know. It helped me at the time, but I haven't thought about that. I don't know, until you just brought it up. So it's probably been
Well,
15, 20 years since I
yeah.
thought about that.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that's probably a really great drill for start lines. If you're having an issue starting the ball on the line you want to start it on. I said, I don't really know. I take it back the prescribed amount, and then I just kind of follow through, and I probably match. If I go back behind my right foot, I'm probably going forward the same amount in front of my left foot. And he sent me an Instagram of the warm up on a putting green for some PGA tournament, and there were like 15 different PGA players, from Sahith to Wyndham Clark, you name it. And he goes, "Look at where they're stopping the putter. They all have like a car crash at their front toe. So they take it back as far as they want to, and they accelerate through, and it stops abruptly right at their front toe. Sometimes even hits and comes back a little bit." I was like, "What is this?" And he goes, "You have two variables when you're putting: how far back and how far forward. How about we do this? Let's eliminate one of the variables. You're going to stop your putter head at the same spot every single time. So then the only thing you're thinking about is how far back you're going." And I would have thought he was crazy if I didn't watch and rewatch this video that he sent, where they all stop abruptly at their front foot or just past wherever their zone is. Listen, I'm under construction right now with those three things that I just talked about.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. That is advice that could be extremely helpful, but also potentially like wildly harmful, because I
I
feel like
know.
that's just one more thing you're thinking about. Like thinking about stopping the putter. I was like, I don't know, man. I come from the stinkingest thinking camp. I mean, any extra swing thoughts or things you put in my brain while I'm standing over the ball could be cataclysmic.
Well, yeah, and I think this applies to all golf swing changes. The point is not to add anything to think about. The point is to make a change that becomes so rooted in your swing or your putting stroke or whatever that you don't think about it anymore. So what I should do is every day after work, I should go putt for an hour and a half until I don't think about that anymore. And I become a much better putter. But for right now, I'm still in the thinking zone, and it is not there yet, my dudes.
That's so interesting because like all technology and knowledge, right? We're constantly evolving and we're building on knowledge bases that prior generations and people have so it would make sense to go and study the guys that are doing it right now, like this instructor said, right? You're looking at Wyndham, you're looking at Sahith. And but for whatever reason in my head, it's like, hey man, the only people that I ever want to like model my putting advice off of has nothing to do with who's like right now. It's like I'm just like I'm gonna go look at Tiger in 2000. I'm gonna go look at Ben Crenshaw in the late 80s and early 90s. Like that's if I want to go and like imitate someone's putting stroke and kind of like habits, I'm just gonna go back to the guys that you know are my favorite or what I think are the best putters that have lived like in my lifetime. Not necessarily what the guys are doing right now. And I'm wondering, is that the correct thing to do? I don't know because it's like, hey, whose putting would you rather model yourself after? Wyndham Clark in 2025 or Ben Crenshaw in 1995? I think we all know what the answer is, but like also Wyndham Clark's working with another 30 years of intel. So like that might be wrong. I don't know. I'm really questioning a lot of what I think about golf right now, Beige.
Well, if you look at
In layman's
Tiger Woods' stroke, it does stop, but it definitely does not stop at the front foot. I mean,
vintage Tiger.
What's the year I'm looking at? This is a Tiger Woods putting stroke of I think like 2001 or 2011, something like that. So yeah, I listen. There's a million ways to get the ball into the hole. The way that you have to get the ball in the hole is the way that works for you, not any other way. Now, if you are lost and you are like Chaboy and you're saying, hey, man, a 76 is nice at that golf course, but I also hit 15 greens, maybe not. Maybe we need to figure something else out. So I'm kind of going through my thing. You guys go through your thing, but enough about all my business that I've now aired out so publicly. Do the thing for you that works for you.
I agree. And speaking of aired out, why don't we just get started on our news and our notes here? Normally, I think we're going to try to move results back here a little bit, Beige. So let's just start with a couple, I guess news adjacent items. I don't know. I guess you can call them news. Really, just items happening in the world of golf over the past week or two since we last got a chance to congregate that we want to go over real quick. Yeah, let's do it. Really good stuff. Yeah, this is strong.
Yeah,
very,
dude.
very strong.
I just see Tony Stark rolling in, pressing his chest, and the Iron Man thing rolls up, and he's got like a driver in his hand instead. Like
Tony Stark would have been very handy for the first item of news we have business. This is a story that I basically feel like I've reported on a couple different times over the history of this podcast. We had another emergency plane landing on a golf course, Beige. You're a man with the internet. Have you seen the video footage yet?
oh yeah, would be kind of a shocker to see in real life.
It's funny because usually when you have a story of a plane like having an emergency landing on a golf course, it's like, oh, this like nothing golf course you probably haven't heard of, and like fringes of Palm Springs or something like that, like some resort course. It's like, but this time it's like, you know what? Let's just do it at fucking Riviera. Let's just do it on one of the most famous golf courses in America. And like, no, I remember seeing the video. I was like, that can't be Riviera. And I was like, oh no, that's definitely Riviera. For anybody who's not intimately familiar with northwestern Los Angeles geography, Riviera, very close to LAX, very close to the Santa Monica airport. And apparently this plane was attempting to return to Santa Monica airport after an engine failure and was not able to get all the way back there. And the pilot, to his credit, found an open path of land and was able to land it at Riv without hurting anybody. And honestly, somehow without really damaging any of the property on the golf course to any noticeable extent. So good job by him. Very, very impressive. I will say this, having watched the video myself, would have been absolutely defecating all over my seat. If I was in that plane during that crash. It did not look smooth, Beige. It looked very abrupt and jarring. I was scared just watching it.
I gotta say that it's very fitting that this happens in LA because I don't know if you're some movie buffs out there, but there's a movie from the year 1995 called Casino, in which these mobsters are playing in Las Vegas. And the feds are circling around them with just like some surveillance technology. And they ran out of gas and they crashed. And that course was actually, in real life, it was Las Vegas CC. So,
Nicky and Ace Rothstein weren't having any of it. They were just laughing at him. He's fucking feds.
The dude knows what he's talking about. The
Also,
dude knows.
I have a remarkably hot take that when I have shared it with other movie loving friends, I get one of the biggest eye rolls I've ever seen. I might be outing myself here as somebody who's not. People may think I'm just doing this for the sake of not conforming, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I genuinely feel this way. Um, Obviously, two of Martin Scorsese's greatest movies, Casino and Goodfellas, made 5 years apart. A lot of criticism about Casino was that it was too similar to Goodfellas when it came out, given that it was only a handful of years afterwards. I happen to think they're both nearly perfect movies. I love both of them. Each one is amongst my favorite movies of all time. If I ever end up putting a list together, they're probably both inside my top 50 or whatever, 100, whatever you want to call it. If I had to pick between the two, I think I would choose Casino. I
Really?
think Robert De Niro's performance as Eighth Rothstein in Casino is one of the most amazing acting performances I've ever seen. His collection of outfits in that movie are so wonderful. I want his wardrobe from that movie. Sharon Stone is just throwing 115 miles an hour for two straight hours. It's almost a perfect movie. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Great. We didn't coordinate this beforehand, but I just wanted to give you a little tip of the cap for mentioning one of my all-time favorite movies right out there. Just
Hey,
synergy.
great minds think alike. And to be honest, if you can't choose between the two, I mean, that's partly because they have pretty much the same cast, because Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro, Frank Vincent, they're all in both. So
I know.
um, there you go.
Good old Billy Bats. Also, this is what the third airplane landing that we know of in Los Angeles. Looks like, was it Howard Hughes has landed one emergency landing on a golf course in LA, as has our great Harrison Ford. Again, I feel like I've been doing this podcast for a long time, Beige. I remember reporting on the Harrison Ford golf course landing on this very podcast many years ago.
What a pro.
What a pleasure to be doing it once again. All right, let's go next item of news. This one, not as much of a emergency in terms of life or death, but certainly probably a little more gravity. Actually, no, that's not true. Gravity is exactly what brought that plane onto the golf course. So maybe
You're damn right.
that might have been the wrong term to use. I'm just going to read it. I'll just make it easy. In an exclusive story later confirmed by others, The Guardian, UK publication, is reporting that President Donald Trump continues to push for Turnberry's return to the open rotation while demanding that is literally the phrase in the article, demanding the first available date in 2028. And in a new twist, according to reporter Kieran Stacey, the UK government has been gently lobbying the RNA on behalf of Trump Turnberry with hopes of appeasing the man-child president. Immediate thoughts, Beige.
Well, hey, again, I think this podcast doesn't talk about where its politics lean. So let's just talk about the role of government in an entity like this. I get why you would want to have your golf course as the host for the Open Championship. If I owned a golf course, I would want it to host whatever championship it could. Would love if we could keep, church and state separate, as it were, the church of golf. But yeah, it's a tough thing. Would I go to a tournament? Would I go to the Open Championship there? Of course I would. Turnberry is an iconic venue. I really hope that the venues that are chosen, much like the Qatarian World Cup, are never influenced by politics, and a lot of times stuff like that are.
Most of it is.
So it's just part of the deal. I think the same thing happens with where the Super Bowl locations are and any other sort of big event-based things. Tell me that the Olympics right now has always gone to the place that won it on a meritocracy. So this one's just a bit more public, I think.
Yeah. And then to add, one person with knowledge of discussion said, quote, "The government is doing everything it can to get close to Trump. One concrete thing is that for the Open to return to Trump-owned Turnberry," and somehow the second half of that quote got deleted. All right. Scratch that. Honestly, this is the least surprising thing I've read all week. The current president using his power to influence something that has to do with his individual business is, again, the most on-brand thing I've heard all week. So, is it good?
Hey, man,
in my personal opinion,
time.
no. It's a damn shame. I think it's kind of a disgrace, but Hey, it is what
We
it is. I'm not
we
gonna. I
we
can't do
live in
anything to
a
fix it. So
time that politics are involved in the game of golf, and we'll talk much more about that later, as we have been ever since the beginning of the Live Golf thing. So that's just where we're at. But listen, I like my Open Championship with a lot of legacy and class,
the
and
golf
I
course at
want to see.
Turnberry is absolutely worthy of hosting an Open Championship. I will not deny that. I would love to see the golf tournament go there. I sure would love to see it be, on its own merit. But whether that happens, I don't know. Take that what you will. I don't know. You want to keep talking golf? You want to keep talking politics here, Beige?
Well, I mean, I'm not a very smart man. I don't know anything about or politics. One of those things when you get when you're walking out in the woods for too long, you know.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay, let's stay on brand here a little bit. This is actually just keeping with the theme of the Open Championship here. Renowned golf course Portmarnock has approved some open-friendly changes that could potentially allow it to host a future Open Championship or AIG Women's Open. Portmarnock, if you're not familiar, Beige, or dear listener, is an infamous, world-renowned golf links in suburban Dublin, so of Ireland proper, not Northern Ireland. And if Portmarnock were to actually be able to host an Open Championship, it would bring it back to, Ireland proper, in, the metropolitan area of its biggest city, which is Dublin, which would be a huge, I mean, it would be a game changer. I mean, we were talking on last week's podcast about how this year's Open Championship at Royal Portrush is on track to be the most attended Open Championship in Northern Ireland history, or the biggest sporting event period in Northern Ireland history, and the largest, most attended Open Championship outside of St Andrews in the history of the championship. Um, man, assuming they could fit that many people there, you'd be seeing that again in spades if they were able to bring the Open Championship to Metro Dublin. This is pretty cool and pretty exciting. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there haven't been great tournaments hosted there. They hosted the Walker Cup in 91. 19 times the Irish Open has been played there. Uh, from an attendance perspective, yeah, that's the main question we're having about Turnberry as well. How many people can it hold? The Irish Open says in 2010 there were over 85,000 over the 4 days. So obviously that's not going to be up to
Gonna need to
snuff.
pump those. Those are rookie numbers. Gonna need
Those
to
are
pump those up.
rookie numbers. Those are rookie numbers. So you really hope that they can do something. Obviously, people staying in Dublin. I'm actually not sure how far away from Dublin it would be, because Dublin, the city, could host that infrastructure and that many people that would need to be there. But yeah, you kind of need a place for the people to go. It's less about the golf course. But again, to the previous point, I live in a city that the NFL team has decommissioned its stadium, and they're building a bigger one, a better one, in the parking lot of the old one, with the hopes of hosting a Super Bowl here in Nashville, Tennessee. This kind of stuff, these big changes happen because you want to host the biggest events. And yes, I think it would be a really nice uh, uh, gesture to the country of Ireland after, a pretty tumultuous 100 years between GB and Northern Ireland, to be able to bring them into the fold. Obviously, everybody's very aware of the conflicts between Ireland and the UK, and it's been great to see relationships like Rory and Shane, and things not the relationship and their golf play not being about whether they are Northern Irish, a la, or i.e. British, versus being Irish. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a great thing for the sport and a great thing for just national relations.
Do you have any reservations about a golf course like Portmarnock? Is kind of in the same as like a North Berwick. It's one of these historic links that have been just the way they are for hundreds of years. Do you feel like it's a little sacrilegious to mess with the golf course and change the golf course just for the sake of hosting an Open? Because I've never had the great pleasure of playing Portmarnock myself. I've never been to Ireland. But everybody that has comes back saying like, man, that was either the best or like one of the one or two best golf courses I played on my entire trip. Who goes to Scotland? I mean, it's almost 100% consensus that this is like a borderline perfect links golf course. And if I'm reading here, I have some notes from Jeff Shackelford's Quadrilateral blog. Besides multiple new tee boxes and repositioned bunkers addressing the expected influx of plant-based protein diets, boosting driving distances up. Now, they gotta love Jeff. He always Jeff's like me, really hates really hates all the added distance. The biggest proposed change reduces the par 4 second to a par 3 and modifying the fifth hole by building a new green and moving back the tee 40 yards. Also, a routing change would take place, according to the Independent, where the 17th would become the 18th for the Open, while the 18th hole would then become the starting hole. That I don't really have any issue with. You know, if you got to move around the starting hole for an Open Championship, whatever. But when you're actually talking about just straight up just changing two of the golf holes, does that bother you at all? Or it's just price of doing business?
I've never played it. So let's just start there. I'm only saying my principles on the matter, and my
I
principles
guess
on the matter would
theoretically,
be
a golf course you have played. So let's just say North Berwick. They were going to change two of the holes at North Berwick so it could host an Open. Right now, North Berwick can't host an Open. It's too small. But let's say they had ambitions to do just that, and I was like, hey, we can do this, but we are going to have to dramatically change a ninth of the golf course. Is it worth it?
I think it's a bad move, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in this week in golf history. I look forward to that, folks. But there are always going to be changes to golf courses in order to make them a tougher challenge for these players with the ball the way it is, with the clubs the way they are. But never in some of these tops that I can think of have we just completely blown up a hole. That's tough. That's tough. I didn't realize that was the change. If they were going to scoot it back, because right now it's about 7,100 yards from the tips. If they were going to scoot it back to make it 74, find a way to add a few hundred yards, fine.
Here they're
just
changing a par 4 into a par 3, and then they're like changing a green location by 40 yards. Which again, there are crazier things that have happened, but I mean that those do represent some pretty significant changes to an otherwise historic and kind of untouched golf course.
So if I had to make a ruling, don't do it. But then again, on the other side, all the stuff that I said earlier was bring it there. It's going to be great for Ireland. Do it. So I don't know.
I think
Maybe
the
we just got to
economic,
get with the times.
boon to Ireland and Dublin and the history that it could then be a participant in makes me kind of go the other way and think like, man, like the golf, the golf purist in me obviously doesn't like this, but like I get it. Sometimes you got to, if you want to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs, right?
For those that are other golf podcast listeners, which I'm not saying you should listen to any other golf podcast, if you know what I mean, but if you happen to cheat on the nice grass of the nice people, there was a really great episode on Local Knowledge. It's a Golf Digest podcast recently about Rory in Northern Ireland and how complicated the relationship has to be between a great professional golfer and his relationship between, am I British, am I Irish, what is it? And I think that this conversation topic is relevant these days because the greatest golfer in the world, or at least in the top 3, is amidst this struggle. Go listen to that. Have a look. I'm not going to dive deep into it right now because I think it's very interesting, but very relevant topic.
Interesting. Okay. This is a short little one. If you guys, how's your weather been lately? Because apparently Pittsburgh has been getting absolutely starched the last week and a half. You guys doing okay weather-wise down in Nashville?
Oh, what does all of Middle America say? If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. We've gotten some pretty gnarly storms, tornadoes, all those sorts of things. As a matter of fact, it was just a few weeks ago that my wife, when I was out of the country, sent me a text that said I'm downstairs with a pillow on the bathroom floor wearing a ski helmet as I fall asleep because I don't know what's coming through here. So, yeah, we've had a couple storms, basically.
Sick. Very, very sick. Well, it sounds like Pittsburgh has not been exempt from such as weather. According to the USGA, I guess a storm took out the Trophy Club, the really nice, extra paid ticket, deal that you do when you go to a U.S. Open, located right off the third fairway near the Church Pew bunkers. I guess a storm came through and just absolutely obliterated it, like just tore it down to the. I would say tore down the studs, but it is a temporary structure, so just tore it down to whatever the scaffolding might be. However, USGA says nobody got hurt. Everything's going to be fine. They got 6 weeks to the U.S. Open. They expect to be back to normal. So just a little speed bump. I'm just kind of surprised this doesn't happen more often. I don't know. I don't know if you have anything to add, but I just thought it was a little interesting given how many, especially, Middle America, golf tournaments we have. It just, the fact that this doesn't happen more frequently, I just find to be surprising.
Something you got to tell Mother Nature. We got a big event coming up there soon. So just cool your jets. Perfect.
So next item of news. This one threw me for a loop, Beige. Colin Morikawa and JJ Djokovic have parted ways. The only person to ever carry Colin Morikawa's bag as a professional is out. A friend of the program. JJ has been on this show before. He is a good friend of Boat. Boat brought him on here right before the Masters a few years ago. This one was shocking, and it only became even more shocking, Beige, when we learned that it was none other than Joe Griner, longtime caddy and friend of one Maxwell Homa. Joe Griner, done with Homa, is now the full-time caddy on the bag for Colin Morikawa. This one threw me for a loop, Beige. How you feeling?
Well, good and bad year for JJ. If you remember earlier this year in the caddy competition for the Players Championship, JJ actually had a hole-in-one on 17. Dunked one. Good for him. Only time that's ever happened. It's always weird to be the other guy. So Joe Griner is getting all sorts of play because he splits with Max. Everybody seems to be fine with it. Obviously, they're sad about the end, but then he goes, immediately wins, gets a nice fatty paycheck from JT.
Go guys for JT at the Masters and the RBC, which he wins. Crazy.
Immediately wins. Strange that we haven't heard, or maybe you know the answer to this. Who's JT going with from here on out?
His normal caddy. So the only reason he had Joe Griner on the bag for a couple weeks is because his normal caddy was dealing with an injury. So he brought in Joe to kind of fill in for him for a couple weeks while his normal caddy was recovering.
Well, you want to talk about a guy whose stock is pretty high. Joe Griner was the best looking girl at the dance at that point, so it makes a lot of sense that Colin would go that direction. I wonder if the move had to do with if both of those incidents were related. I wonder if Colin was feeling a little stale. Joe Griner's up and he goes like, now seems like the right time. Obviously JJ's such a great caddy, such a great player. He will land on a bag. It'll be a great bag. But it actually kind of had me thinking about some of the most infamous or even just famous caddy shifts. Can you name 3 of the biggest 5 caddy shifts that have happened over the years?
I mean, the one that everybody's going to talk is Steven out, Joe LaCava in for Tiger.
And Steve goes on to find a bag, and he wins the Masters with Adam Scott.
Which
great end of the story. Mm-hmm. That could be a great thing. You got any others?
I mean, Fluff leaving for Steve Williams.
Yeah, and Fluff also goes on to have a great career after that with Jim Furyk.
He was on his back for over a decade. It was awesome.
I think one of the other ones that's very noteworthy is Bones leaving Phil's bag, but then, Bones goes on to JT eventually after a stint in the broadcast booth. It doesn't always work out. I mean, well, the other iconic one is winning a green jacket with Bubba Watson and then winning 2 green jackets. Maybe he won 2
green jackets with Bubba and 2 with Scott Scheffler for young Ted Scott.
Ted Scott's got to be the only guy with 4 green jackets with 2 different players. That's got to be. That's got to be. He's the only one. But yeah, there were some that weren't so good. I mean, remember when Rory and JP split? When there was a bit of a harsh moment they had in 2017, thus opening the Harry Diamond chapter, where all the Harry Diamond haters at this point have to be silenced.
Hand up. I mean, I'm not silent, but hey, I'll take it back. I was not. I did not think it was the right move, and I'm glad to see I was proven wrong.
There's all sorts of moves. All I'm saying here is that JJ doesn't need to hear this from us. He already knows that he's going to find a bag. It might be a better bag because Colin Morikawa has been top 10 for years, and we haven't seen a real breakthrough. We've seen some crumbles. Maybe it's just time for both. Maybe it's just time.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, maybe it's just time to run its course. And I do, man, it's not like he would ever actually come out and say it publicly. This is not something you do. But I wonder if Colin's shtick had started to wear pretty thin on JJ as well, or if it's one of those like, hey, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Like when you're a jock, like you're not the important one. Kind of like you just deal with whatever you got to deal with. I mean, shoot, Bones dealt with Phil and all his crazy shit for 2 decades. It's the, I mean, because this has not been a great year for Colin Morikawa, at least in the PR front. I mean, Colin Morikawa has been playing some amazing golf. I mean, if you're looking just purely at strokes gained, like Colin Morikawa is like 3rd best player in the world right now. I mean, he's playing unbelievable golf. The fact that he hasn't won is actually more improbable than a lot of outlier guys getting a win. Like he's been that good all year. So I do find it a little surprising that just not getting across the finish line is essentially probably what's caused him to switch things up a little bit. And maybe he thinks that because Joe was able to get JT across the finish line after a couple off years, that maybe it's time for him to do the same. I, I don't know a ton about Joe Griner other than I know he's really good buddies with Max Homa. When they split up, before the Masters, I thought it was pretty surprising, but I was like, all right, so Max has been going through a ton of stuff. Maybe, him and Joe just kind of came to a mutual thing like, dude, I'm so sorry. I just have to try something different. Um, and then doing a little more, a little more digging this week. These quotes are a couple, 3 weeks old now. But I guess I just didn't realize that the split between Griner and Max Homa, apparently, like, Max was bummed. Like, Max did not want for them to split up. It was pretty much like a Joe Griner thing being like, hey, brother, like, I love you, but, like, I got an opportunity to go make some more bank somewhere else. Like, can I go? And Max, gave him permission to do just that. I thought it was a totally mutual. I just assumed, I should say, that it was like a mutual parting of ways. But this is the quote from Homa that I got from a golf.com article. I mean, it was not my choice, so it sucked. But we always had a deal that we're friends first, and friendship mattered more than the work thing. And he was wise enough to do what he did, and it's hard. Dude, I'm just so used to him caddying, so it sucks because I just pictured always walking fairways with Joe. But again, that just wasn't the deal. I'd rather walk life with Joe forever than in this dumb game. So yeah, it's been hard to process, but also good in a way because friendship does matter more than any of this other stuff. End quote. Thought that, unsurprisingly, a very real, very human, relatable quote from Max. He's unbelievably good at this. But I did find it a little surprising that it was like Max did not want to break up, and Joe was like, "God, man, you fucking stink right now. I gotta go make some money."
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. There are some times that you love your team at your job, and there's a better thing for your family. And at the end of the day, you have to make the right call. In this case, Max had 5 missed cuts out of 9 tournaments. He had a withdrawal in there. He's only got 1 top 20, and that happened to be a T12 at the Masters.
Yeah, at the Masters. Unbelievable.
Which is its own thing. But if you compare that to Morikawa, not to say that there was any sort of collusion or planning, but Morikawa, I mean, like, he's got 2 solo seconds and a top 10. He's been in the top 20 for everything else other than the RBC. Like, there's every reason for a new energy there to be exactly what the doctor ordered for Colin. And he is now getting higher and higher on that terrible list of young major winners that can never do it again. He's joined by a one Jordan Spieth. And now a recent exit of Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
So
Rory has left the chat.
Yeah, you got to do what's right for you, and you have to take some risks sometimes. So you got to just feel positive for everybody involved and know that they're going to work it out.
Keep him fingers crossed that JJ lands an awesome bag, that he's he's going to be okay, and hopefully all is good for Colin and Joe. Although I will say this, before we move on to the next news item, I'm finding myself really not. I shouldn't say I'm not rooting against Colin Morikawa right now, but like I found myself being beyond indifferent when it comes to Morikawa. Like I think, what? Scratch that. We're trying to be as upfront and honest as possible with our listeners in terms of how we feel about these golfers. I think I am kind of rooting against Morikawa. Now that actually I think about it, like I think it's more fun to watch him come up just short. I want to see him play exceptional golf and not be able to cross the finish line just from a narrative standpoint. I find that to be wildly entertaining. And if that means that JJ doesn't have to go through that with him anymore, then maybe this actually turns out to be a great thing. I don't know. Call me a hater.
I try not to send out negative vibes whenever I can. I'll let you be the negative guy. I'll be the yin to the yang, sir.
Okay.
But actually, I don't know much about yin and yang. I don't know if one is positive or the other one. But we'll just be opposites on this.
Lightness,
obviously.
Darkness. It's everything works in balance, Paige. When I take you on your first trip to Korea, we'll learn all about it. We'll go to some Korean temples. I'll get you all schooled up. Don't worry.
Fair enough. But, I mean, winning cures everything, right? So
sure.
If Colin Morikawa goes and wins 2 of the next 4 majors, all is right in the world, honestly, and everything, all of his attitude that he's had this year will be just valid.
Despite everything that I just said, if Colin Morikawa went to go win 2 majors, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome for him, and it'd be awesome for golf. And ultimately I would get on board. I think that would be
It's
fun.
a Cali boy. Come on, root a little. But either way, we're happy that people are moving forward and onward and upward. And one of those guys, Rory. I mean, you gotta throw him. You gotta throw him in the list of guys to watch out for coming up. And he's finally now feeling some of the positive effects of the Masters after taking a little bit of time off.
I know this is like usually something that a lot of the Masters champions kind of just run right into. You win the Masters on Sunday, Sunday afternoon, evening, and then 1 or 2 days later you're doing all the rounds of media. You're on the Today Show, the late night show, like on Tuesday of that same week. And when Rory decided, I was like, oh man, I guess he's not going to do like the post Masters winner like press tour. No, no, he just wanted to make sure he could go do a couple things. Had to go home see his folks. Across the pond. He got to play in the Zurich with Shane Lowry. And now he's finally getting around to it. So yeah, like I said, last week he was doing some rounds. Oddly enough, just for NBC. I thought it was odd that he was only visiting NBC properties. That you would have
Golf
thought,
Channel, baby.
yeah. Well, I would have thought like winning the Masters on CBS, maybe he'd go on to whatever. It's not David Letterman. It's Colbert. Colbert is like the late night show on CBS now. And figured he'd just be doing all of them, but it looks like he was only doing the Late Show or Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And then he also did Today the following morning. And there's just a couple little highlights here from some of the interviews that I just wanted to share with you and our listeners, Beige, and get your 2 cents on. Rory on Tiger's text message to him after winning the Masters. According to Rory, Tiger said, "Welcome to the club, kid. There's only 6 people that have ever achieved this Grand Slam in golf. Only 4 of us are living. So it's really cool to be a part of." Not surprised by the vanilla-ness of this, but also very sweet and encouraging nonetheless.
Can I just say one thing to stand up for an old legend? Ben Hogan won the 3 of 3 majors that he played in way back in, I don't know, whatever the 50s
1953.
were. Okay. He literally could not get back because it was hard to get across the pond to go win the Open Championship.
Yes.
So, can we just kick him into this conversation, please?
Feel like Ben Hogan is beyond the level of Rory McIlroy, at least as of right now. So I'm fine with it. I think it sounds great. I'm with you.
And one other point, obviously,
It happened to Sam
anytime.
Snead. It happened to Sam Snead, by the way, too. Sam Snead went out and played in his first Open Championship. I believe he won it. The Open Championship he won at St. Andrews. Did not defend his title the next year and did not appear in the Open Championship again for, I believe, 17 years. Mostly because it was just a huge pain in the ass to get to go play in if you were an American back then. So yeah, Hogan's not alone.
That's tough. That's tough sledding, But one other thing I was going to say about Rory on the NBC property, the thing to remember is that McIlroy is in business with Mr. O'Flaherty. I forget what his first name is, but they are the founders of Tomorrow. TMRW.
Yeah, what is
Tomorrow
that again?
Golf League. Well, Tomorrow Golf League is the parent company of the TGL.
Okay.
So
yeah, because that's right. He made an appearance on CNBC as well. Okay.
NBC is in the Tomorrow camp, and thus, why would you go on CBS when you can just go join friend of golf Jimmy Fallon and recreate the chipping into the dryer scene that he had done when he was a child? I mean, that's as full circle as it gets.
Delightful. What'd you think about the story that Rory shared about his daughter Poppy and her uncomfortable question to him during Masters Week? So if you're not familiar with this one, Rory said, so they did this kid's photo one day at the child care that Augusta provides to the families of the players. And all the kids got these Augusta National t-shirts, and on the back of them was a list of all the past winners up until 2024. Poppy came up to me and said, "Dada, why is your name not on the back of the t-shirt?" First of all, what an absolute fucking white hot scorching burn. Just hey dad, like why are you a failure? Dad, why can't you get it done? Just oh man, just a tough scene for Poppy and for Rory. But then Rory says, when I won, I came back and the first thing I said to Poppy after we were alone was, "Honey, my name's going to be on the back of the t-shirt," which I thought was adorable. So
Well, it is adorable, and Poppy's just kind of like, "Can I just have my juice box? Like, I don't really care."
Dad, I
Like,
have no idea what you're talking about. You're referencing a conversation from 5 days ago that I have no recollection of. I
dude, where's
apologize.
the damn iPad? I'm already wearing a shirt. What are we talking about here? It is adorable, of course, and I'm not yet a father, but I can imagine that those moments mean a lot more than wins themselves at times. So, very beautiful moment.
I also thought this was pretty fascinating. This is the last one I'm gonna, highlight from his press tour. When he was asked by Carson Daly of the Today Show about a possible Champions dinner menu theme, Beige, this is not what this is not what we were anticipating his answer was going to be. Rory's response was, "I've been into wild game recently, like venison, elk, stuff like that. So I don't know. That sort of fueled this run. So maybe it'll be something like that."
First of all, have you spent time in the gamey meats section, because it's nice. Okay, I don't know if PETA's out there. They got feelings on this or something, but like a nice buffalo burger, bison burger. You know what I'm talking about?
I have
Like
tried them. It's been a little while. I will say this, for I don't know, probably about 7 or 8 years from 2012 to like 2019, I was a pretty consistent Joe Rogan listener. Used to love the Rogan podcast, and I'd listen to all of them, including all the ones with like all the meat eater guys, Steve Rennell, and all those guys. So like, I was very aware of the wild game, revolution that was coming to men's nutrition. Granted, I kind of stopped listening when COVID sort of broke Joe's brain in half, but I'm still very, very familiar. And I have to say, I'd like to get back into the wild game.
let's get our
Game.
game
I'd like
on,
to do.
dude.
Rory's kind of inspiring me. I'd like to go have myself a nice elk burger. Right, that sounds delicious.
Maybe you and I should launch a meat e-commerce thing for nice grass, nice people, and we'll call it Game Time. You know,
See,
you like that?
now we're thinking. And question: if he's going full wild game for his Champions dinner menu, I feel like the only appropriate thing to do to complement that is just a purely uh, forage dinner with ingredients only found on the grounds of Augusta National.
Tonight we're having azaleas.
I want them to kill a fucking elk off the 13th fairway, dice that thing up, serve it for dinner, and then just a nice little forage of azaleas and dogwood crostinis. That sounds nice. That's my
The
hope for
point
Rory.
is, it's his call because he won the damn Masters. So if you want to bring elk in, cook it medium rare and let's have a nice time.
Could not feel more embarrassingly vanilla after suggesting that he was just going to do a roast. It's just a typical English roast for Champions Dinner. That one feels that one does not feel like it's in the cards anymore.
Well, there better be some potatoes from that Ireland perspective. But moving on. I appreciated this next point. Sorry for taking the mic here, but
please, no, I was just going to ask you if you could do it. Great.
We looked at the show notes, Mr. Surlo and I went, God, I don't even know if I want to talk about this one. He's like, fuel the fire, baby. Barstool Sports announces the Internet Invitational taking place August 12th through 16th with a $1 million purse. All right, I'm going to give my opinion in a moment, but let's read what Dave Portnoy, Davey Day Trader, said about this. He said, by the way, this isn't your mother's golf tournament. We're not going to be quiet in a thing like this. We want bad shots. We want you to feel the pressure. It's going to be 30 to 50 to 60 of the most well-known golfers, celebrity athletes, internet people with big money, big stakes, and us in your ear chirping. Here's the first thing I got to say. I'm not even going to ask you what you think. I'm going to tell you what I think.
Please.
I'm just tired. I'm already tired of YouTube golf. Okay? It's a good thing. It has a place in the game. But maybe I am in the minority and I go like, I don't really care. And I said right after this, how do you feel about this versus the PGA Creator Series? We're coming up soon. There's a one-round event, where all of the same swath of influencers are playing, and the winner gets into the tournament the next week. I actually think it might be this week or next week. Dude, we got rid of so many Monday Q situations, and now somebody like George Bryan, who like just couldn't get on the tour himself, so he had a YouTube channel, and now we're just going to have that guy mop up Fat Perez from Bob Does Sports.
Is he the one that got suspended, or was that his brother?
His brother.
Okay.
His brother. Which is its own ball of wax. But I just, okay, we just don't need to mix it with the pro game. And this Barstool thing, hey, Barstool's done a lot of great things. I used to listen to the Foreplay podcast almost exclusively for golf, and then I got a little bit more interested in architecture, and I really cared about more analytical approach for a buddies podcast and for a channel that you can go listen to feel like you're hanging out with the boys. I'm all for it. This event might actually be awesome. Maybe they bring in some new elements. Like, would it be cool to watch if a guy can press in the middle of a match? Maybe that's something that you want to relive or something. But I hate to loop this in with the Creator Series. I just don't need it to interfere with the major league sport that we already have just to rummage up a few more viewers.
God, yeah, this is bad podcasting. I feel like, you're always looking to debate and come at things from a different angle, but God, I just could not agree with you more, Beige. I don't know, man. I feel like this is a little different than some of the other YouTube golf stuff because this is like a tournament with a purse. And, I'm assuming, although probably incorrectly, that these people aren't so wealthy that like they wouldn't be taking it seriously and wouldn't be racked with nerves, given the opportunity to win like $200,000. With $1 million purse, I couldn't tell you what like the winner share would be. But you'd like to think it'd be enough money where, this would resemble like a proper golf tournament in the sense that like people are competing and they really, really want to win and there's some serious financial stakes. But outside of that, I don't know. Is it that we're just a little bit older, like, man, the YouTube golf thing is fucking tired. And again, I think it's great for golf. I think it's brought a lot of people, like as you mentioned, that have taken an interest in golf because of it that maybe wouldn't have otherwise. But as a golf hardo, like someone that just loves golf, at every level, I'm just bored, man. I'm just so fucking bored with YouTube golf.
Okay, maybe I'm jealous, right? And maybe if I was famous and I got in, maybe I'd go like, "Hey guys, this is great for the game and all that." But I'm just a viewer. I'm the customer here. And I'm saying that like I actually don't really care. Now on your one point, how does a $1 million purse get split up? The typical way that you would do that is roughly 20% of that purse goes to the first place finisher. It drops to like 10 and 6, 4 down from there. So like the winner of this might come out of here with $200,000. And if it's just like, Frankie from Barstool Sports, that's pretty awesome. Good for him. I will reserve judgment on the product until seeing it. And I probably will watch it, which is the ultimate goal that they have. But if I had to prejudge, if I had to be a little prejudiced, then I would say, man, I just don't care. There's enough great products out there like PGA, LPGA, DP World Tour, and even LIV Golf before this. You can watch a Corn Ferry event that gets really exciting. So whatever, maybe we're being golf hardos here. I'm not sure.
The funny thing is, like, I feel like if the golf YouTube space hadn't been completely oversaturated over the last like 4 years to the point where it's just wore us out. If this was kind of like a standalone thing, we're like, hey, like Barstool or whatever else is going to organize like a big like celebrity golf tournament with $1 million purse, and like there's like another world where I'd be like, damn, that sounds super fun. Like I'd be game to watch some of that. And again, I'll actually be pretty surprised if I don't end up seeing some of it. But again, it's just hard to carry. It just seems so oversaturated. I just don't. I don't know, and I feel bad too because I feel like I'm painting with a pretty broad brush because there are still some golf, YouTube videos that I love and enjoy, and it is still like appointment viewing. But I think when someone says YouTube golf, I'm thinking of the Brysons, and I'm thinking of Bob Does Sports, and the kind of guys that are like all their videos are just the same guys just playing golf, just following them while they play around the golf. And that's kind of like that doesn't do anything for me. If you go somewhere like Cookie Jar Golf, they do a great job in highlighting, golf courses with really, high end, video, and they're kind of explaining history and architecture. That No Laying Up has always done a great job with their videos. I still enjoy watching their stuff. So I guess, it'd be unfair to say all YouTube golf, but I think we're all when you hear someone say YouTube golf, you're thinking of the same thing I'm thinking of, right? Hey,
Yeah,
come see if we can break 60. Break 50,
again,
whatever it is.
maybe I'm just being jealous. I played out at Old Hickory with a buddy recently, and it was pretty wild to walk around Old Hickory Golf Course in Nashville, Tennessee, and see the course that Bryson went out and did his break break 60 on. It was cool, or break 50. It was like, oh, this is a pretty cool event. So maybe I don't know, probably just jealous. I, I don't need to dive too much further other than to say the fact that we're talking about it means it made enough of an impact
I could
that we're
say
here
I
already.
could say on my end that I'm pretty confident with the fact that like it's definitely not jealousy for me. Here's where I'm about to make a quick admission, and then we can move on to the next thing here, Beige. I have only ever watched about 4 minutes of a single Bryson DeChambeau YouTube video, and this was long. I mean, and this the first Bryson YouTube video I watched was honestly like a month ago. Up until a month ago, I had never watched a second of any of his YouTube videos because it just was like I don't know, like didn't care. Like I knew it probably wasn't going to be for me, but then finally it got to the point where it's like, man, like I think it was right before the U.S. Open. I was like, man, everybody seems to love this. Like, oh look at all his videos have like millions of views. Like I just the curiosity kind of overtook me. I was like, okay, I got to see like what exactly is it about this, this dude and his videos that makes it so compelling and people can't stop watching. And dude, 3 minutes in, I was like, this guy's fucking annoying. I'm turning this off. This is brutal.
Well,
I just don't get it.
well,
It's just not for me, and that's
you
okay.
got to chalk, yeah,
It's
you
just
got to
not for
chalk
me.
it up to personal taste because he's got 2 million
Yeah,
followers.
a lot of people do
So,
love it. It's just not for me. So
well, good on you. I want to, send good vibes out into the world. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe I start watching it more. That's just my opening take on it. But when we get to Bryson, now we're talking about all sorts of other things.
watch
We're
us 2 months
talking
from now coming and doing 2 episodes on the Barstool, Celebrity Classic. It's gonna be the golf event of the year, and we're
we
gonna
might.
we're gonna have to eat crow, which I'm fine to do.
We might. And the question is that bigger than Live Golf? And that moves us to the next topic. And the last of our breaking news. It's just been a breaking news.
Dude,
it's been a breaking
it's just
news
a heavy news day.
podcast
There's
today.
nothing wrong. I'm not gonna apologize. It's just a lot of stuff to talk about. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, but here's what the article says. According to Money, the magazine in sports, or Money in Sports, look at the latest filings by Live Golf Investments. The parent company for worldwide Live Golf has increased its authorized share capital twice in 25. 330 million in January, and then a further 344 in April. So that's $675 million this year. So the total funding in 2025 could reach $1 billion as soon as July or August if that third capital injection by the PIF comes in. And I guess the big question here is
$1 billion in costs. That is the ledger is a little on tilt here, Beige. The profit and loss doesn't really seem to be balanced in the way that you'd like to see it.
And here's the question. I actually sent you a text over the weekend about this. What's wrong? Because at this point, you can have all the muds slung at you from the PGA and the big propaganda about how it's whatever, all the bad things that we all know about PGA. You've put into this, when people say like money fixes everything, this is the latest billion. There have been, I don't know, 10 other $1 billion that have been pumped into this. So you got to say, well, what's the problem? Now, the first thing is that LIV is by definition successful because it's still around, baby. It's still happening. They have not gone belly up. This is their fourth season. Most new businesses close within the first 5 years. This injection of cash means we're definitely going to see through till number 5 and go on through the foreseeable future. But my question to you was, if this is going to continue, something for the viewer has to change. How do you fix this?
It was so funny when you texted me and be like, hey man, I'm like, it's Saturday night, I'm watching Live. And I was like, I'm embarrassed to say I'm also watching Live. Saturday
Not
night.
even embarrassed. I kind of want to know. I watched because there was no other sports on. They were playing in Korea at 11 p.m. my time, I think is when the tee off happened. So probably somewhere around 9 p.m. your time. So it's like, hey, there's golf on TV. Let me start watching.
That was exactly. Little man had just gone to bed, laying on the couch, just cracked open a beer. It's like, oh, there's some live golf on. Sure, why not?
And how'd you feel?
I felt the same way that I feel when I watch almost every other live event. It's like, man, I'm not totally sure how I'm supposed to muster up the energy to start caring about any of this. But having watched bits and pieces of most live tournaments, I can't claim that I ever sit down and am watching for more than an hour like I do with the PGA Tour, where I truly do invest a lot of time following and watching the other professional tours around the world. Live is just, there's a disconnect. There's just something that like prohibits me from just really getting down. And I wouldn't even, it's not even the, dozens upon dozens of negative, things I've said about LIV on this podcast or to friends and things like that, where I'm just trying to prove myself right. It's just, I mean, there genuinely is an issue. There's like some sort of emotional barrier that LIV is dealing with where golf fans just don't understand why they're supposed to give a shit. And I do have, I don't have a lot, but I do have one, observation
Wait,
thought based on what I
are
was
you are
watching on
you are you
Saturday.
are you going to talk about fixes? Because we can go there.
So we can go the fixes route here, and maybe that is where we're going, but like, I don't know. When you're talking about what are we going to do, I guess my mind did go to like fixes, and just watching it, it's hard because it's this like quote unquote team golf event where you're also playing like the individual tournament. And I can't totally remember if when they very first started with that, that initial tournament at the Centurion Club in England back in 2022, um, it just feels like the team aspect of it is kind of gone on the back burner. Like there's always the team like leaderboard in the bottom left corner of the Indy 500, leaderboard they have. Um, but it does seem like the team aspect of things has been put on the back burner, and it's now just kind of more like, hey, who's going to win this golf tournament? It's essentially just now just another golf tournament, individual golf tournament that has like a B team aspect to it. That's sort of like, hey, and then after everything's all done, we just add up these guys' scores, and then if they happen to win, like, hey, then they get a little extra money. The problem is if they're going to do that, then they are directly competing with the PGA Tour, LPGA, everything else, where it's like, hey, this is an individual sport where we try to see the best golfers compete, against all the other best golfers. That there's a far superior product in existence that has a history of fans and tradition and things like that. And LIV just trying to essentially replicate it, I think is a huge boner. I mean, I think the only way LIV is ever going to, make any kind of a compelling product where people that love or enjoy watching the PGA Tour like us are also going to watch that is to differentiate themselves, and they're just not doing a good enough job.
So it's really interesting. I compare the LIV situation a lot to the XFL. One of the main things
Huge San Francisco Demons fan right here. Right here.
Hey, there you go.
Hell yeah.
And yet he can't get behind LIV. What's going on here? But
when you're looking at, I just support Vince. That's all.
Fair enough. Fair enough. When you're looking at what's missing, I think that the main piece that's missing is like legacy, like meaning. How do you get that legacy? I think that's
How do you get it? I don't know.
Yeah, you get it. I think you get it from the fans. And I think that's a big pitfall of what happened to the XFL as well, because you have obviously the incumbent is so huge in the PGA and the NFL. You have huge legitimacy issues because maybe the XFL is gimmicky. On the LIV side, there's no OWGR. All these comparisons that basically say that they're just not going to be able to live up. So I actually took some time on this.
Did you notice I'm very proud of you. Hey,
I took some,
ladies and gentlemen, on Nice Grass, Nice People, we do the work.
We do the work. We do the work. Some preparatory work. And I kind of viewed that there are like three tiers. There's like the obvious ones. I called them the tap-ins. Then there's the maybe we could do this. Maybe we can make this happen. I call that the lags. Like a long lag putt. And then the third, which is like, this is kind of a harebrained idea, but it's wild, kind of like a hole out. So my tap-ins, lags, and hole outs. And I got a few. Can I share a couple with you?
Please.
The tap-ins are obvious. You got to find a way to get OWGR before this matters for anybody. Like everything is nothing until you get OWGR.
Okay.
Second, you got to remove the guaranteed money. That's got to be gone because whether they feel this way or not, I cheapen the sport until you've done that. Third, you've got to find a way that someone can qualify to play. And you know what, dude? If they invested heavily in Monday queues, where a guy in Singapore can try to qualify in, that matters a lot more. Find a way that somebody else can get in and play. And I think that this all kind of comes to this whole idea of Formula One. Remember they were talking about that at the beginning? They're saying like, we want to be global like Formula One. Well, Formula One also has Formula 2 and Formula 3, and it goes down just like in soccer leagues. You've got the Premier League, and then you've got below that is Championship, below that is League 1, 2, 3, things like that. You have to have some sort of a feeder system that someone goes up. And I think that's the main one for me. This is a tap in. You need to find a way that people can qualify and work their way up to the Premier League of golf.
Good question for you. Because to me, I'm talking about how LIV has a differentiation problem, right? It needs to find a way to better differentiate itself because it's an inferior product to the PGA Tour, but it's trying to do a lot of the same stuff. But like you said, but it doesn't have the OWGR and stuff like that. The initial tap in is like, to me, what I'm hearing is like, look, man, like, I know you're having trouble. Like, we're not talking differentiators. That all the core tenets that make the PGA Tour good are what you don't have, and you need to get all those before you can do anything else.
You don't need all of them, but you definitely need those core ones. Like, you need to find a way for someone to be able to get in. Otherwise, you're just watching a movie that has been cast and, you're just seeing the same actors doing it again and again. And that's not really exciting. They're not there based on merit. They've signed a contract and they're on a team. It'd be like if you just picked,
right now, LIV is the
50 or
Roadhouse
100
remake with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's like I have the real Roadhouse on DVD. I don't need that.
That is a take. That is a take.
Okay.
But here's my second.
No offense to Jake Gyllenhaal.
It wasn't that bad. Anyway, the lags, the second one. Here are some things I think would make it a little more interesting. Number one, put team managers in. Put a coach in. I don't like this playing captain thing. If you want the team thing to be real, get a coach who makes calls.
I like
and you know
this.
what? Sometimes people are pissed off at the coach. They're like, I don't know why he benched me. You need a coach. Second, let's differentiate. You know what we love?
By the way,
brackets.
I'm sorry. Can the coach be like a college golf thing where the coach is out on the golf course during rounds and is able to like walk with different players, talking to different players while things are going on?
Put a headset on. Have 4 assistants over there going like pull a 7. I don't know.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Like you need coaches if you're going to have teams. That's just the way it goes.
For sure.
The second thing is I think you need to start embracing other formats. One that we like in America is brackets, baby. So try doing some match play head-to-heads and make it team-based or something that makes the competition a little more, like you said, differentiated.
Couldn't agree more wholeheartedly. I agree. The format for LIV is a huge issue right now.
Huge opportunity. And then, again, further into the team thing, do a country versus country, a region versus region. Right now, the teams are going to struggle to make a legacy if they don't create some sort of identity for me as a fan.
Isn't that so weird though? Because a lot of, not all, but a lot of the teams on LIV are essentially like organized by like demographic region, right? Team Torquay, excuse me, is like your Latin American team. The Ironheads, are just a bunch of Asian guys.
You're real close. Just tie it in because, if people don't love anything more than a little nationalism, we know that. So I think those are a little bit different, but like make those changes. Here are my big picture, my like really lean in. Okay, what if you required an amateur to be on your team? A guy that's there just to be on the team because he's here to win. That's an idea that talks more about the team and the win and less about the cash they're going to make. I got another idea. You know what we really love seeing is these mixed events. It's coming to the Olympics. Why don't you have a requirement like you do in your local kickball league? You bring on one female golfer and your team. It's about the team, go team. You have a mixed group that's not just like, I don't know, Ian Poulter or some Henrik Stenson who struggles to break 80. Bring somebody on, they tee off from the ladies' tee, and that's, hey, you score a bucket for team fireballs or whatever. I got 2 other ones that are more like viewership based.
Please.
If you want to lean more in, then why don't you integrate with like a live betting platform that I can sit here and I can do live prop bets that are going on all the time. Put it on a ticker online. The world is moving in this betting direction. You can beat the PGA Tour there by leaning further in. They do a really good job with stats and graphics and things like that right now. I noticed that when I was watching on Saturday night and I was trying to get into it. It's like, a lot of this stuff is pretty cool. It's very techy. Go further. Make it interactive for me. And you could even go further than that and go like a split screen or give me other viewership options. Like you want to follow a group here, like the top 5. And on the other side, you have other great shots that are happening throughout the day. Lean more in the direction of the tech stuff, not just a little bit. So basically what I'm saying is for the whole LIV thing, One, you have to become legitimate somehow. And I think you do that by giving people opportunities to qualify in and then continue to rise and get to the top league. The second one is if you need the differentiation piece, then just go do it rather than playing around here and going like, we're basically like the same thing. You're not. Lean away from the regular. And third, like the world of golf is asking for things. They're asking for mixed team events. They're asking for brackets. They're asking for integration between like
That's the
great
whole reason
amateurs,
that
things like
LIV
that.
exists, like to begin. Well, I shouldn't say the whole reason. The main reason that LIV exists is because the Public Investment Fund, the government of Saudi Arabia, are, attempting to, they're attempting to clean up their reputation, which has been less than stellar. Although, hey, more so than ever as an American. Wait, it's also a little tough right now as well. But they, first and foremost, is to do that, and second, but also very very important, it's because the PGA Tour was not satisfying what a lot of golf fans wanted, in terms of like, hey, let's have some golf that's not 72 hole stroke play. Let's mix things up a little bit. Unfortunately for LIV, they botched it. They took this desire for golf fans to have something different, and then promptly spent a ton of money not delivering. But that golf fans still want it, like you mentioned. So whoever can pull it off, whether it's LIV or whether there's some sort of a merger or whether the PGA Tour, somehow pulls its head out of the sand and is willing to start being a little bit more creative with some formats and stuff that they're doing. Until someone actually finally steps up, there is always going to be an opportunity for someone, including LIV, to take advantage of that. And yeah,
Take that $1 billion and do something with it. For the love of God, don't just keep
do
it
something.
alive because right now there's 19,000 viewers on average for the events, and that's inexcusable for the amount of money that's in it. So that's my piece. Somebody connect me with the leadership at LIV, and I'll be your chief idea officer or something. But I think that would go a long way. Thank you for listening to my tirade.
I love honestly, really enjoy all that. The coach one, I think, is a coach and like a team manager. Like I've mentioned this in the podcast before. The fact that there's like no transparency with the quote unquote like front offices of each individual franchise in terms of like trying to make moves, relegating certain guys who aren't playing well, bringing up, so like none of that. I mean, none of that's a thing, right? And teams that are dog shit, like getting demoted. I mean, they're never going to do that because all the contracts are guaranteed, which I think, goes to your point of like, hey man, you can't have it be guaranteed. It kind of, golf is one of those sports where it's not baseball. It's not, it's not basketball where it's like you give your guy a guaranteed deal for 4 years and he plays for your team for like, that's, doesn't work like that. Golf is just,
again, yeah, the core issue here is that it lacks legacy. Legacy is created by the fans. And I think in normal sports, fans probably take in more content of stuff that's going outside of the game. They want to hear the player not just go like, missed a couple bad putts there. They want to hear the coach go, listen, we're not playing up to par and I'm going to make some changes. And then we can argue about that. Make it like a team and give us some other stuff. I don't know. We got to move on. We've already racked up a pretty good amount of time today, but I think there's something there that I can get behind. There's going to have to be changes before I really sell.
Totally. All right. Let's go like, we'll finish up briefly here, Beige, but I don't want to be too brief because we got to learn about this week in golf history.
Ooh, get out your textbooks. Quiet down in the back, Bobby. Pull out your books. You're going to learn a couple things today. The week of
Sitting in the front
May
row, Mr.
5th.
Beige.
Yeah, he's sucking up. I'm going to give you
By the way,
-5 points just
happy late, Cinco de Mayo to you and to everybody out there.
For those of you listening, it's 6 de Mayo, but today, in fact, it is Cinco. A couple things that happened in the past. May 9th, 1985, the PGA Tour announced the official adoption of the one ball rule. Basically, until then, you could have used a ball that was super hard for your drives and a super soft little spinny guy if you wanted to on the same hole up into the 80.
Wait, whoa. I'm confused. So but what if you're playing the ball down? You can't just replace your ball in the middle of the hole.
Suppose you could on the green if you liked a little different feel.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, that is
interesting little thing.
Never even knew I was a thing. That is a fascinating tidbit. Okay, all right.
Unless my research is sideways, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo in 2010, Rory McIlroy first breaks into the top 10 of the OWGR, which is so crazy to think about how Rory is the connective tissue between Tiger Woods and today's golf. because Tiger seems like such a different, distant past. That's 15 years ago. And the guy just won the Masters. He's number 2 player in the world. I don't know if we talk enough about the longevity of Rory to say that when I was still in high school, he was in the top 10.
It's crazy. Like, it honestly seems like a lifetime ago. Like May 5th, 2010, I believe I received my diploma and I got graduated from college 6 days after that. I want to say it was May 11th, 2010.
Yeah, I guess.
And that feels
I
like
guess
a
I was in college.
long time ago. My
I
goodness.
guess I was in college. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm not good at math. May 9th, 1960. This kind of applied to our Portmarnock conversation. Augusta National announces the addition of its first fairway bunkers. And I found this to be interesting.
What year is this?
1960. Because we're talking about how could you possibly change an Alistair McKenzie design. Maybe people didn't care that much about that then. Maybe they did. But I think there was a little bit of a scuttlebutt about it because this is the first shift in the original design. And what would Augusta National be with no bunkers? Well, I guess they had bunkers around the green, but no fairway bunkers. I mean, that's everything. Think about number 2, number 3, number 5. I mean, we could go all the way
Literally
through it
every hole in the golf course except for 7, 17, and the par 3s.
It's about the bunkers, man. It's about the bunkers. Lastly, May 11th, 2008, Annika Sorenstam wins her final LPGA tournament at the Michelob Ultra Open. Again, also kind of a long time ago, because I can remember when Annika Sorenstam was the dominant name in the LPGA, really about the time that I think the LPGA started knocking on the door of relevancy. Just, we're behind.
Take us back to a time where beer companies got to sponsor golf tournaments. What a delight that would be. I mean, can you imagine right now if instead of the Truist Championship happening at Philly Cricket Club this week, it's like, hey, and now we're heading to the Bud Light Open.
Yeah, it'd be the White Claw Open. Let's be honest. Everybody already drinks their Bud Light. But yeah, hey, they probably came out and they're like 95 calories, folks. Come on out to the LPGA.
Oh yeah. Wow. 2008. Again, yeah, junior year of college. That is a while ago. Man,
there you go.
That's awesome.
That's 4 facts for your next cocktail party, folks. This lesson is over, and I hope you learned some.
Yes. Wow, that was wild. All right, Beige, I don't even know because we had some technical difficulties this episode. I have no idea how far into this podcast we're. I'm assuming it's quite a bit of time.
It's a solid 115, something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're doing fine. All right, should we? You want to briefly recap what happened this past weekend here? Just a couple news and notes. We had a couple different winners.
Yeah, somebody call the police. There's a murder to report of the entire field.
Scotty Scheffler wins by 8 down at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Say that 15 times. Did you know, Beige, that Scotty Scheffler's 8-shot lead after 54 holes was the largest of any lead in a PGA Tour sanctioned event since this week in golf history, since Rory McIlroy also had an 8-shot lead going into the final round of the 2011 U.S. Open at Congressional.
Honestly, it seemed like a lot more than that.
Because he had a major, like leading by 8 in a major. I mean, it's like actually, you know what? The best thing I listened to or saw this week, Beige, the golf world related. No Laying Up does do these deep dive podcasts where they look at just a calendar year in the past, and they just spend a few hours talking about the major championships. And they did it for the year 2000, where Tiger won three major championships. Would highly recommend. But in doing so, they were recapping the 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and I was a little shocked when I read this stat. Like, I can't believe Tiger wasn't leading by over 8 through 54 holes at Pebble Beach. That seems impossible. The guy went on to win by 15 strokes.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Absolutely great. But then again, that would have been long before 2011. So that's why it actually makes sense. I'm sure it was more than that. By the way, speaking of the murder scene we were talking about that took place on CBS this weekend, can I give you some stats, some different categories where Scott Scheffler led the field?
I mean, you're going to be talking for a while.
I'll try to go quick. This is insane. This past weekend at the Byron Nelson, Scott Scheffler, first in hole proximity, 28 feet. First in total birdies, 29. First in par breakers, 44%. First in 3-putt avoidance. He had 0 3-putts.
No 3-putts.
First in putting average, 1.52 strokes per green. First in shot gained approach. He gained 3.2 shots on the field. First in shots gained, tee to green, gained 4.2 strokes on the field. First in greens hit in regulation, 82%. First in par 3 scoring average, first in par 4 scoring average, first in par 5 scoring average.
Unbelievable.
Fucking sick. First in putting from 3 to 6 feet, 56 for 56. This is the one that absolutely melted my cornea. First in strokes gained approaching the green, he gained 12.8 shots on the field, Beige. I've literally never seen a strokes gained number like that. That is just hooligan behavior. I don't even know what to say. I'm just my brain doesn't want to can't computate this kind of thing. And then of course, first in strokes gained, tee to green, 16. What the fuck?
What's wild here is that he didn't win by more. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, he kind of kicked the can. Like, kind of fucked up the last 2 holes. He did.
yeah. He hits all of his putts. He's 100% from 3 to 6 feet, which I suppose would be anything inside 6 feet. He didn't miss any two footers. But he is the first in approach and in putts. So it's like you were the closest to the pin and you were the best putter. I don't know how I'm sorry, I'm babbling here because it's just you were the closest to the pin.
The numbers just kind of break your brain. As a golf fan, you're looking at these numbers like, these numbers don't, like, I've never seen these before. This is just absolute bonkers behavior. And it comes 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks before the start of the PGA Championship, where, Scotty has mentioned that he is trying to not play any tournaments the week directly before a major. He said that having to grind out his win at the Memorial last year, the week right before the U.S. Open, really took a toll on him, and he thinks that has a large part to do with why he wasn't as competitive as he normally would be at last year's U.S. Open at Pinehurst. So this is his last final warm up for the PGA Championship. This win has now actually put him as a co-favorite for the PGA Championship. Rory, since his Masters win, has been a unanimous, favorite heading into the tournament, and they are now sitting at plus 500 each, which is crazy.
Let's see a battle. I know we're gonna spend next week on diving into the PGA preview,
mega PGA Championship preview coming next week, folks.
But still very, very impressive. A couple of the notes that you made about last week's tournament. One, yes, you love to see Davis Riley self-report himself on a 2-stroke penalty and then drop a long eagle to be able to make the cut. Very, very good. We love the integrity of the game.
I love it from Davis Riley. Very impressed. Also, that golf course is flat as a pancake, and he had the self-report because he had the slope feature on his rangefinder. God, on a golf course with 12 feet of total elevation change, that is tough. That must have been an accidental click of the old slope feature button. It's like, damn it. What?
Those buttons are tricky. One time I was playing with the boys out in Southern California, and I was like, man, I am just coming up short to everything. Are you guys getting the same reads as I've got? And my buddy grabbed my rangefinder, looked at it, and goes, hey, you're in meters, bro. Sometimes, man. Sometimes you press the wrong button.
Sometimes it just be like that,
It do sometimes.
What do you have for Spieth here? What do we think about Spieth after this last week? Another great showing in his home state of Texas, and yet he loses by 12. What?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my dad texted me and he goes, I predict Jordan Spieth wins the PGA. And I'm like, well, first of all, you and the rest of the golfing world that is all wanting two
career Grand Slam finishes in a span of 5 weeks. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, but the thing that I said was, yes, he did lose by 12 shots. I mean, he's a third, maybe even solo third. I can't remember. It might have been just a normal top 5, but he lost by 12 shots. And the second thing was the players that were not in the tournament last week, and I don't mean to take anything away from Scottie Scheffler's first in all 14 categories that are measured, but listen to this. Players that didn't play last week that might matter in a tournament like the PGA. Rory, Brooks, Bryson, Xander, Morikawa, JT, Oberg, Hovland, Fleetwood, Lowry. I could go on.
Are those guys good?
So the numbers would suggest. So, yes. Was it a shellacking by Scotty? Yes. Was it a really great golf tournament by Jordan Spieth? And is he looking a lot better than he was 1 year ago? Yes. Is it incorrect to say that Spieth is going to win the PGA? That's also yes. No, he's not going to win the PGA. And that's coming from me.
No, it's
I've
not.
already selected 25% of a correct
Jordan Spieth's
Grand
second
Slam prediction.
Jordan Spieth's second attempt to complete the career Grand Slam with the PGA at Quail Hollow. If you'll recall, JT, who won there in 2017, that tournament took place just 1 month after his last major championship victory at the Open, where it was major number 3. So, a chance for redemption for young Spieth.
Hey man, go ahead and do it. Writer's going to write,
Sure.
talker's going to talk, and I do some talking. So would love to talk about it.
Speaking of results, let's move on. We've already mentioned it. Bryson won on LIV Korea, wire to wire, rounds of 65, 66, 66 at Jack Nicklaus Golf Club in Incheon, Korea, a suburb just outside the metropolis of Seoul. Incheon actually is where the main international airport is. So anytime you fly in and out of Korea or fly into Seoul, you will be flying into Incheon. So very close to the golf course they were at. Just a little local knowledge for y'all. I don't know, man. Like I said, we watched a little bit on Saturday night. It's fine. Good for Bryson.
Well,
first win since the U.S. Open at Pinehurst.
You have to pay attention to Bryson because he is in the top 5 players in the world, if not higher. And the one thing that I felt when I was watching Bryson is like, dude, Bryson on fire is scary.
Yeah,
you're like, who
compelling.
Can beat
it
a
is
Bryson
very,
on fire?
very compelling.
Because I don't remember in that round or in any of the highlights, like, whoa, what an unbelievable hole out from 230 yards. He was just playing. I hit the ball really far. I wedge it pretty close, and I make it or I miss the putt.
And he's got a pretty
good
nice short game, and he's putting the ball great right now. I know. Bryson is an absolute threat to win any golf tournament that he competes in right now. So
yeah.
It
just goes to show you the head game that Augusta National is, because winning Augusta is not just winning a tournament. It's not just winning a major. It's a career defining event that you cannot avoid mentally. And he beat himself on Sunday against Rory. It wasn't even close. He built it up as cool as he was talking, like, yeah, woke up late, watched some James Bond movies. I went and putted with you. Yeah, I was laid back. You were not.
In hindsight, Bryson DeChambeau would have won the Masters if he had just shot 70 on Sunday.
Oof.
Let's
not take anything away from it. That's his first win of the year on LIV, which I don't ever really think is impressive to win. I do think that the scores can be impressive, and winning is winning. It's a good thing to get that back in the mindset. I'm sure he's exempt for all majors for at least a few more years,
at least 5 based on last year's U.S. Open win, and then certain majors. I think. Is the U.S. Open? The U.S. Open might be 10 at the U.S. Open, then 5 for everything else. I think at least.
Yeah, and otherwise, I think he's in the top 25 in the world still. Where we got him at number 13, which is by itself, by the way, pretty amazing. When the only tournaments that count are the occasional European Tour event that he plays, or Asian Pacific Tour, or just playing in majors. I mean, that's a stat that goes a little underappreciated. That he's in the top 15 in the world while only getting, I don't know, 5%, 10% of the shots that everybody else gets.
Before we wrap up the show, let me just ask you a quick question. Let's say you are Captain Keegan Bradley, and the Ryder Cup is no longer 6 automatic qualifiers and then the 6 captains pick. It is all captains picks. You get to choose the entire Ryder Cup team. After Scottie Scheffler, is there another American player that you'd rather have on the Ryder Cup team than Bryson right now?
No, but I think there are a
Morikawa
number that
or
are in
Bryson
the
right now.
Yeah, I think it's Bryson.
I think it's Bryson. Bryson or Xander.
Xander, I'd probably put ahead of him, only because he's playing against these other guys all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And Colin, I suppose the same thing
goes
crazy.
With that. That's where we're thinking about Bryson right now. I mean, who would have fucking thought this 18 months ago? Like, just honestly incredible. Like, really incredible from Bryson.
Yeah, it'll be really wild if Bryson dips a couple more spots before the PGA. If Wyndham Clark and Patrick Cantlay are ahead in the world ranking of Bryson DeChambeau,
that would be sick.
That's just silly. That's just silliness.
I honestly, I thought those guys were dead. I haven't heard from those guys in months.
You're alive.
You're alive.
Yeah, I'm 16 in the world. We could talk about all the tournaments we're excited for, but I'm really, really happy when in any podcast we're speaking of Sir captain himself, Keegan Bradley, has
Yeah.
mentioned.
You know what?
I
That's a
nothing is
I know.
as
Your
exciting to
guy.
me as the Ryder Cup this fall.
I think
Oh
it.
boy, I'm
I think
just
let's just
juiced
end on a
thinking
good note.
about it.
Let's just call it there. There's a great job, Len, with Sir Keegan. Getting things all ready. It's starting to look like it may be a little tough for the captain to qualify automatically. But hey, we're not going to rule anything out. We were counting them out last year too, and look at it. You won a was it a playoff event or something last year?
Can I ask you something?
Sure,
If the Ryder Cup is tomorrow, who wins?
dude. The United States would get absolutely skunked. Like, yeah,
Pummeled.
I would say like if the Ryder Cup is next weekend, the Euros might have it clinched by day two. Like
They
they look so much better right now. It wouldn't even be a fair fight.
We've never had a war on American soil, they say, but we would lose one if it was
I mean,
tomorrow
do you
at
think the powers that
Bethpage.
be at the PGA Tour kind of saw this one coming, and therefore your podcast co-host's theory about kind of just throwing him out to the wolves and setting him up as the fall guy? Maybe there might have been a little more merit to that than some may have initially thought. Beige. They're not setting our guy up for a lot of success right now, given the just absolute winning prosperity that's going on with the Euro team. Oh, this is a great
You know
place.
what they say? You
Yep.
know what they say? It's a true who could say. It's a true who could say.
It is true. Who could say? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to wrap this thing up. I have a little boy that just got home, who's just walked into the old podcast studio, making all kinds of noises. So I think it's a perfect time for us to wrap up here, Beige. Anything else you want to share with the people before we go?
No, sir. Enjoy your tee times this weekend in the glory that is the golf season in full bore.
Absolutely. All right, and please, when you're out on the golf links this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We'll see you next week.